While less famous than the well-known Buffalo Bill Cody, William E. Mathewson lived a legendary life and was the first to be known as Buffalo Bill. Mathewson was born in 1830 on New Year's Day in Triangle, New York. He was son to Joseph and Eliza Stickney and was the seventh of 8 children. The family lived on a farm, but the lifestyle that Mathewson yearned for was living a life as a hunter on the wild frontier. When he was 13 years old, he left the family farm and went to work for a lumber mill in western Pennsylvania. During this time, he would often go out with the local hunters on their expeditions. These trips would take him up into Michigan and Canada during the fall, and the group would not return until the following spring. In 1849, Mathewson would leave the lumber mill and head west to seek employment with the Northern Western Fur Company. His employment would take him into Yellowstone, the Red River region, and Upper Missouri. After remaining nearly 2 years in the employment of the Northwest Company, Mathewson joined with a party of hunters led by Kit Carson in 1852. Within this party were several famous men of the time, including Lucian Maxwell and James and John Baker. This party traveled south to the head of the Arkansas River, traversing the foothills of the Rocky Mountains, crossing the headwaters of the Little Bighorn, where General George Armstrong Custer was later killed, then headed to the north and south forks of the Platte River, and finally passed down through the country to present-day Denver. After traveling throughout most of the region between the Rocky Mountains and the Missouri River, Mathewson came to realize that the settlers were about to further their expansion into the west. Seeing this opportunity, Mathewson decided to become a businessman and opened up the first trading post along the Santa Fe Trail in Kansas. At the time, this was considered too dangerous, for it was outside the protection of the United States military. This did not deter Mathewson, and he went on to establish a handful of trading posts during this time. One of them was a trading post on Big Cow Creek. It was here at this trading post where Mathewson would come face to face with Santanta, a chief of the Kiowa tribe. Santanta entered the trading post with several warriors and announced he was here to kill Mathewson. Mathewson quickly reacted, striking Santanta in the face with his revolver, which knocked him to the ground, and then proceeded to give the chief a severe whooping. After this event, Santanta would give William Mathewson the Indian name of Sinpa Zilpa, which meant long-bearded, dangerous man. Mathewson would earn his more widely used nickname Buffalo Bill during the winter of 1861. The drought of 1860 destroyed many of the local settlers' crops, and when winter came, they were on the brink of starvation. These settlers knew of Mathewson and his great hunting ability and implored him for his help. Mathewson agreed to come to their aid and would hunt buffalo with no regard for his own life. It is said that in one day he killed over 80 buffalo, which brought enough meat for the settlers to survive the harsh winter. When offered payment for his service, Mathewson refused and said he was just doing what any man would do. In 1864, Santanta warned Mathewson of a coming attack on his trading post. Santanta did this partially out of respect for the man and out of the belief Mathewson would flee, leaving valuable supplies behind. However, Mathewson would not be routed and would begin preparations for the attack. On the 20th of July, 1864, the attack came. Over 700 Indian warriors descended upon the outpost, and Mathewson and 5 other men began to fight for their lives. The preparations made would be crucial to their survival. After 3 days of fighting, they managed to repulse their attackers. The Indian force believed the small outpost would make for an easy target, but they were sorely mistaken. Not satisfied with the results of their raid, they soon turned their attention to a wagon train of 150 wagons about a mile away from Mathewson's outpost. Unknown to the members of this train, these wagons contained government supplies headed to Mexico, which included Sharps rifles and Colt revolvers that were disguised as other cargo. Being unaware of the massive stockpile of weapons, the wagon masters had to rely on what weapons and ammunition they had at hand. Unprepared for this battle, the circled wagons were in danger of being overrun by the native force. Mathewson was informed prior by the train owner of the contents of the wagons, and soon realized that this information was unknown to the members of the wagon train. He quickly mounted his prized mare with a Sharps rifle and 6 revolvers and charged straight for the circle of wagons. A mounted Mathewson was able to rush right past the attacking Indians, for their focus was on the wagons. Mathewson quickly leaped within the wagon circle, hopped into the back of one of the wagons, and with an axe busted open the crates. He began to hand out as many Sharps rifles and Colt revolvers as fast as he could. The Indians were soon outgunned, and after taking severe losses, began their retreat. Mathewson knew their best odds to prevent future attacks was to chase his enemy further away. He organized what men he could, and they gave pursuit of the fleeing Indian army, chasing them miles away. For this deed of heroism, William Mathewson was presented with a beautiful pair of six-shooters with carved ivory handles, silver-mounted and inlaid with gold, by the Overland Transportation Company to recognize his saving 155 men and 147 wagons of government supplies. Throughout the rest of 1864 and into 1868, Buffalo Bill Mathewson would play an important part during peace treaties with the Native American tribes. He was tasked with being a negotiator and served as a mediator between the government and the Indian tribes. He was the only man who could travel without molestation from the Indians, as he was both feared and respected. He knew many of their customs and could communicate in many languages, both verbal and sign language. He was instrumental in negotiating peaceful treaties and was credited with saving 54 women and children through peaceful negotiations. In 1868, Mathewson acquired a homestead near the Arkansas River, which would soon become the heart of the city of Wichita. There he built a home and began a profitable career as a civic leader and banker. His first wife died on October 1, 1885, and he married for a second time to Mrs. Tarleton of Louisville, Kentucky in May 1886. Although Mathewson was a man of great many accomplishments, his lack of national fame was his own choice. When approached by newspapers and novels to retell his great life, he refused, preferring to live as a modest man. In 1916, the legend of Buffalo Bill Mathewson would come to an end, when due to complications with asthma and old age, he passed away. His son received a letter from the more famous Buffalo Bill Cody and offered his condolences and acknowledged that fellow frontiersman William Mathewson was truly the first Buffalo Bill.